We live. We ready.
We are live. Irish in the fire.
I'm Greg. You're Derrick.
What? I'm like, wait, what? This is not right. Yeah, opposite of what he said.
Yeah, I'm Derrick.
Irish in the fire. Like and subscribe.
Support, please.
And brought to our sponsor.
Do you want to come in the camera?
Ripley,
Yes, she
our
does.
dog who now has bladder stones and has to go on a what's that called? A urinary tract diet, which she's not enjoying right now.
I guess.
Not enjoying at all.
it, do you? No, she doesn't.
She does not enjoy.
Sometimes.
But she's still kicking. There was that one night. What was that? Like Tuesday, Thursday, where she.
Was it Tuesday night?
Yeah,
I think it was Tuesday night because I think I closed.
She was struggling to pee, and we took her in, and everything seems to be okay right now. But she has to go on a diet because she's got those stones, and if they don't go away in a month,
and the doggy doesn't understand.
we have to get bladder surgery.
Nobody wants bladder surgery.
Yeah, let's see if that food does its job and dissolves them. But anyways.
Oh, and then also the other day I became an uncle. Yes,
Uncle!
My brother had a sweet little baby Charlotte. She's a little bundle of perfection. Or apparently a big bundle.
Yeah, we said what?
7 pounds, 11 ounces.
That is a bear of a human.
That is.
That it came out
She's
of.
going to be a huge woman. she will strike fear in the world. No, but she's beautiful, so.
And as always in the background, Art, the greatest $8 purchase of all time. Eddie Murphy, My Girl Wants to Party All the Time.
Yeah.
And then I threw out the Ramones to.
And you know, I like it.
Yeah. Just to change up the background. Because we're not exactly the Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn podcast where we have elaborate backgrounds.
Oh, yeah. Joe Rogan's had some pretty cool ones.
Yeah.
Actually, Theo Vaughn switched his place.
He just switches up all the time.
He must, yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I've seen him where he's been in, looks like it's like a hotel lobby or like a hotel.
Right,
I
yeah.
remember, I think he was.
Where do you think you're going? There's no food.
Is that hot coffee or warm coffee?
That is mild coffee.
Yeah,
I put ice
she's
cubes in
searching for anything that's
Dude,
not
she-
this. She's just sitting down.
Hi, Ripley.
There we go.
Anyway, so Ripley has something to say.
Yeah, she does.
Mic her up. Is all she'd say. Funny thing is, Johnny Ramone's, his mom has worked with a bunch of people I've worked with. She was
Really?
a cashier at the grocery store chain I work at.
Oh, at
I
Publix?
guess she lived in Orlando at some point.
Oh, and she worked at Publix?
Yeah.
No way.
Just through the end of her days, but they said she was kind of crazy.
It's a lovely bowl cut.
That's D.D. Ramone. He died of a heroin overdose.
Talking about heroin, it's a great.
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
a great
perfect.
segue.
That's kind of what we want to.
Because I wanted to start with. I discovered as we were discussing, sometimes when I discover a song and I like it, I'll continuously listen to it, and every time I continuously listen to it, I love it more and more and more and more and more, to the point where it's almost psychotic how much I listen to a song.
Right.
But right now, I'm listening to a song by Alphaville called Big in Japan, which we looked up last night, is about a couple doing heroin and being addicted to heroin.
While in Japan, right?
No, I think that was just a saying.
Oh.
I guess it's like in Berlin, something to do with
Oh,
that
right, you were reading
Berlin
that.
Zoo. I don't know where it's from, but it sounds like it was a couple that has dreams of being big elsewhere in the world.
Oh, right.
And I guess the singer or the lead singer, I guess there was a band called Big in Japan, and he liked that phrase, so he just put it in the song. But I love how heroin always gets connected
and that's
together.
exactly what we were doing. Heroin is the great unifier of the world. But I too, that's something you and I both share, is I listen to music the same way. I mean, I have my classics I go to, but when I hear a song that I'm just like, oh, this is good, I will listen to it.
Well, when I was at the tennis court, whenever I go to the tennis court out there, I'll start with the same song or whatever song I'm constantly listening to at that moment. I'll put it on, and then the same songs the playlist of the same songs come up one after another. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of people where you need to change it up for some odd reason. I like that. I like listening to the same song, especially when I'll learn the words to it. I'll listen to like the guitar solo, or I'll hear like the drum beat, or the rhythm of the drum, or whatever, the vocals, and I think the last 3 days I've been listening to Big in Japan, and they've written I don't know how many pages in a journal or whatever just to listen to that song. Even this morning I was listening to the song, I think for an hour straight, just writing, which that's another topic we'll have to get on about writing, because I'm discovering I love writing way more than I thought I did.
It does, and I would even, just to keep it semi on track, even with talking about, just since we only have a short period of time before I got to go to work, but I think it's kind of a similar mental. I mean, we both said that maybe how we both listen to music and stuff, it might be a little spectrumy, which is, actually we in the world today, we have found out, this is kind of adorable, but the world has realized like everybody has different kind of brains and different kind of chemical compositions, but I think the same with listening to a song 1,000 times. It's kind of similar to writing, where you kind of lock into a different dimension.
That, and also the other side, a different side of the brain that's firing when you hear music and stuff like that. And you get stuff creative.
I do wonder if that's linked to. It's the same side with writing, right?
I probably, because I would assume there's the creative side of the brain, and then I think there's like
the creative, the left,
or
and the
whatever,
right is like
the logic or whatever. Yeah, that's what I think it is. I don't remember exactly, but
nothing is. Do your own research.
Yes, we don't have.
Regardless how confident we sound,
we don't have much. We're probably like red flag, wrong.
Yeah. Don't listen to these.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're talking about half the time.
That's the whole point, though. We're just trying to encourage thinking.
Well, encourage thinking, and then also doing stuff like yesterday with the 4th of July. That was a nice little steak.
Oh, that was great.
Corn, asparagus, and a pool where
I still need to.
It was just loaded with people yesterday.
Yeah, it was one whole family reunion.
Yeah, it was an entire family reunion.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was good. I'm glad it didn't rain.
I didn't overcook the steaks too much.
No, I loved my steak.
Yeah, mine was a little bit of medium well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like mine to have a little bit more red, but it still was a damn big steak.
Right, I like mine too. I almost even originally. Well, that's especially with a community grill. It's hard to.
Well, having one community grill in a giant apartment complex is hard to.
Right, it's not like it's a perfect
yeah.
flaming whatever.
And it takes a second for that grill to like kickstart.
Yeah. But that's what's good about a ribeye is because the fat and marbling in it, it's a little bit more forgiving, even if it's overcooked a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you can actually.
What's the difference between a ribeye and a New York strip?
Don't chop.
Because I again, you're the meat cutter.
Right. Now the ribeye is from the rib cage.
Okay. Well, obviously.
And then,
is there less?
The rib cage is up here.
One has less fat, and the other one has more fat.
Exactly. Yeah. A New York strip is just like if you look at there's a porterhouse or T-bone.
Yeah.
It only changes depending on the size of the fillet.
Yeah.
But the short loin is like this part.
Well, what's the most top piece of meat? Is it the filet mignon?
The most expensive, yeah.
It's the filet mignon.
Just because if you consider labor, if you consider the
Because
size.
where is that in relation to?
In the side.
In the
it's
side.
like, I mean, it's the same thing as a. I mean, most bodies
So it's the
are
most
made the same. It's like a chicken tenderloin. That if
Okay.
you ever get like a split breast or the tenderloin's on the breast there, in a way, the strip loin is the breast, even though it's not the breast of the cow. But then there's that one tender strip that you can kind of just pop out from it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but if you think of the size of a cow, whole tenderloin's kind of the size of your forearm. So it's also how much you're getting out.
Oh, so you can like chop up a bunch of pieces off that thing?
Not that much.
No,
I
not
mean,
that
a
much?
rib cage of a cow, I mean, depending on the parts, there's the chuck roll involved with it.
Yeah.
But a ribeye is probably about that big. But, you know, the steaks are about that big.
Oh yeah.
But a tenderloin, you know, they're about that big. And you get two of them out of each side. But for how it's the most tender piece. But it's the fact that it's the most tender, but there's also the least amount of it.
Yeah.
But then there's also weird things like hanger steaks and chuck eyes and stuff, which are actually a steal if you can find them, and they're not that overpriced, but there's only like one in it.
Yeah.
But it all depends on what the world wants. Yeah.
They're giving the history and science of the different types of meats.
Of the retail of the meat world.
But I guess to kind of get this thing moving along so that we can actually get something to talk about. I guess how are you doing? Are you doing lately? How are things on your end?
I don't know. Things are good. I don't know. It's you know. I mean, we all know it's a lot of work. I mean, hell, even today, I was given the forewarning yesterday, but I mentioned there was a call off. There's already a call off today.
Yeah. So you're running solo?
Well, there's a good guy who's opening.
Yeah.
The floater guy I always talk about, who I really like, and honestly, if it's going to be one person, he's probably the best person to be there. The guy wasn't my closer; he was like the mid, so I don't know. I might have to end up cleaning when I go in, whatever it may be. But there is a unfortunate confusion and downfall of. I feel like these mega corporations, they're starting to slip up or something. I think the pandemic fucked the world up more than even, like, grocery stores stayed open. But I think they changed things up a couple ways, and then they realized they can't really get it back, and prices went up.
Yeah.
But work and kind of pay and things
Sort of
kind of went down. Like,
well, and
they don't want to give the hours.
in relations to and everything just costing more. Everyone's kind of making the same amount, and things are getting more expensive faster than your wage is increasing. So it's hard to keep track. I also think, in talking about that, I also do think the more every place I've worked at, I found that the more bodies or the more corporatized everything is, there's more confusion at the bottom, because you have these people up here saying, okay, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to get done, and then it goes to these people then give it to those people, and then those people give it to the lowest possible person. And sometimes it doesn't always work uniformly throughout the whole
Well, it's like
company.
when you were kids playing telephone.
Yeah, it sort of gets diluted.
Like, you get the
And you
idea,
get
but
a
every
slight-
single time you pass it on.
Yeah, it gets a slightly different message, and then at the end of it, yeah, like a telephone, it started out as, I like Stacy, and then it's like, go fuck Johnny.
Oh, yeah,
you're like, what?
Right. You're like, what I do? yeah. No, that's correct, because I always say it at work that I was like, I get everything we're told makes sense on a computer in an office somewhere.
But when you put it into live action,
yeah, there's such a disconnect from that to this lower level because, like in meat retail, there are things. Everything is credited for. So the weight of a tray.
Yeah.
We put in soakers, aka they call them diapers. I never liked calling them that, but that's what they are, just like to soak up the blood. That time and labor, the plastic used to wrap it, the stickers, the corporation knows what it costs to produce one package.
Yeah.
As far as material. So I do say that, like, it makes sense on a computer somewhere where you're crunching, like, how, well, they did it this way or that way. Like, when you times that by 365 days, you end up with this amount of profits if they do it this way. But then when you go on the ground level and you're like, well,
to continuously,
I don't have half of that shit, and you're also yelling at me about 5 other things. So
well, that, and then also you're asking less people to do more work in less amount of time, and you burn them out so quickly. It's like when I was working with Amazon. They are insanely efficient when it comes to transporting packages, getting packages on routes, making the routes, they basically have a computer that does everything for them. They just kind of like click the button, it does it all for them, and then they're called Amazon pickers. They know exactly which route needs to go to, what bin it needs to go to, so on and so forth. Now there are a little bit of mishaps here and there because everything is so confined to a specific amount of time. And maybe they've changed a little bit because I haven't been there for, 2.5, 3 years now or something like that?
Right, I'm sure Amazon
I'm sure they've
slowly
updated it.
evolves.
Yeah, I'm sure they updated it.
But
they change.
That's a
they
company
change
that
every.
works.
They
You know what I
change
mean?
it
Like,
every week. It seemed like. But when you get down to it, it's everyone's overworked. People don't have. They're overworked. They have too many hours, and then there's too little hours. There's too many highs, lows, highs, lows, high, low. I mean, obviously, that's just kind of the nature of the job and position. But it seems
that is also how it's always been. But it does seem to be a little bit more.
It seems like, and there are times where we've been wanting to do more episodes, or I've been wanting to do more episodes, and it seems like your normal shift turns into a shift and a half.
Yeah.
And you come home and you're drained. I don't really have that much of an issue. I guess my issue is more that I'll have a schedule for 2 months, and then I'll wake up the next day, and then they completely change it again. The consistency of scheduling is kind of my issue.
Right.
But my days are perfect for me. The way.
Right. I mean, that would even take a month of consistency. But yeah,
That's another
consistency.
Consistency is so difficult to find. You have to find consistency, because once you can find the consistency, especially at your job, you then can focus on creating that routine for yourself outside of work, so you get things done rather than come home. Like you've had, like, I gotta close. You get home at like 11:30. You gotta wake up 6 a.m., which is totally not reasonable to ask someone to do that.
Right.
Just because it's. I mean, you got to give someone at least, what's reasonable, 8 hours of sleep?
I think technically it's supposed to be 12 hours in between. Maybe it's 10. There's a number.
I think it might be 10.
This store actually does, I think it's 10. And this store does more or less follow through with that. More or less. But I've been at other stores where they don't.
Yeah.
First store I worked at, I would regularly close and be back at like 7 or 6, or like me. In a way, there was kind of some logic to it. There really wasn't. But it would be me and the other person closing, and we would turn around and be the ones opening, because then it's kind of like, at least it's you left yourself with what you had and you knew, and you just kind of continued. But then that turns into, especially with an hour lunch, that's what, a 18-hour technical time at a job. And that's not good for anybody's mental health unless you're getting paid a lot or you yourself created or are part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I want to somehow find eventually, is to be a part of what I'm making money.
Well, I'm all for capitalism. I do like that. I do like the fact that you have the freedom to step away and if you want to build something, make something yourself, start something, you have the freedom and ability to do that.
Yeah. Which is huge.
Yeah, which is huge, and then you can build it up to however you want, and you deserve all the rewards from what you made.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes people, when they're making, I guess when they get super big, super successful, like the Amazons of the world, or like the Googles of the world, or like the Microsofts of the world, or like other big like Walmart, stuff like that. They're so disconnected from the ground floor, like you were saying, that without the lowest man on the totem pole, which, yes, they're normally the least paid person because they have the least responsibility.
Right.
Sometimes they have the most physically demanding job.
Mm-hmm.
Usually. But in the grand scheme of things, and I don't know if I want to say that either, the least responsibility, but if the lowest person has to put the stuff up on the shelf or put the stuff here, if they stop doing it, would things get put up on the shelf?
Right. I mean, I know Florida has its own overall.
I sound stupid
kind
for
of
saying
political stand. No,
I sound stupid, but
you're not wrong. But it's something like
but
Florida's a free to work.
I guess it's
state.
I guess it's a moral thing. I guess where, and I would
Well,
think.
I've cut meat under. What I was going to say was that you are correct. If everybody walks out,
There's
an entire store loses
money.
Everything. Florida doesn't have. You can't have a union in Florida because it's a free to work state.
Yeah.
Which is good in some senses. Like for an actor, it's good because you don't have to be
in SAG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can technically do anything.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, then, if you're not in SAG, they probably are going to get somebody in SAG. Or if you're really good, maybe they'll look over that. But a union, I don't know, there's ups and downs. You have to pay your dues. And obviously, a corporation is kind of like, hey, we need them to do what we want. A union protects that. But
well,
that's
union,
what unions are kind of for.
They're supposed to be for, but usually what happens is I think some people see that they can make a lot of money and they turn into exactly the problem what they're trying to.
It starts looking at things in a different way.
Yeah, where, I mean, back in the time, like Jimmy Hoffa, he was involved with the mob.
I was about to say,
and they were funneling money everywhere.
Unions were almost all mob connected.
Yeah, so I mean, if that's happening, it's hard to trust the union, because what if the union's just like, okay, we're going to screw over the company, also the small guy too, and then the people in the middle are taking all the money because they're in charge of the union. So you're kind of in like a little thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I guess you have to have, and I've never been in a situation where I've owned a company that large. I neither have you. But you would think morally, I guess it's business ethics, kind of like in Billy Madison, business ethics. But you would think moral, it's the puppy. See, the ethics, it's the puppy.
Puppy.
But you would think morally, obviously you want to make profit year over year. You want to make more money than the year before. Is it realistic to ask for that? Maybe, but I don't think it's forever. There's going to be a year or two or a couple of years in a row where you don't make as much money as the year before. Or like,
as a company?
Yeah, COVID, all the streaming services made so much money. They're like, okay, we're going to not put any movies in the theaters.
Right.
And just solely do streaming. And then they're finding out that they're losing all kinds of money by not having movies in the theater. And now it seems like no one's going to the theater, and so they're losing money with the streaming service and not making money at the box office. And then they're not making DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever and selling those as well. So where's the money coming from? And the big guys never want to have less money than the year before, so that means everyone at the bottom is the ones that get less money.
Taking the cut.
And so that's
or
sort
straight
of
up being cut.
Yeah,
and
that's
now
where the
there's less
problem
of them.
is.
Yeah.
Or they're trying, like now with the whole issue with AI, they're supposedly doing the special effects, so they're taking jobs away from people. They're having people write scripts and songs now with AI.
Right.
So they're taking away work from them. And so everyone's trying to cut corners. Everyone's trying to find the cheapest way to get something made or get something done, where maybe instead of making $12 billion, maybe make the $12 billion, but maybe, I don't know, throw some of your people some money, because without them, you wouldn't have that $12 billion.
Right. Unfortunately, we're at a point.
But so many people don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, they don't, because, and honestly, once you get it, whether you come from a rich family or not, if you're getting it, you don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
It's almost a very human thing.
It's very.
I know a lot of people are like,
and
the
you all
fucking 1%ers, like, kick it down. But also, what little you have, you don't want to give up.
Yeah, it's the same.
And you want forward momentum.
That's why I'm not going to fault the billionaire at all, because they work their ass off to get to that point. So it's not fair.
Right,
for,
like some of them do.
Yeah, it's not fair for me or you to say, hey, you should be paying more because you make more. No. You made something that everyone wants. You should reap all the benefits. But to sleep better at night, why can't you give back a little bit more?
Toss it down. I mean, well, Trader Joe's, I don't know if we're mentioning company names, but they're a very light company.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, any job has the same problems as jobs, but honestly, when I compare it to what I do, everybody in my department was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I know.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what I've complained about, and kind of like what I was saying yesterday at the pool, is that like my job, even though it's in a building, there's like 10 of us. And they won't give us hours. So, you know, you had somebody in the morning, somebody in the middle, somebody at night, if you're lucky, and maybe some people in between that. But when one person calls off, it all blows up.
Yeah. That's how it was when I was working at Amazon.
Right.
Because one person calls out, I have to cover for that person, but then I still have to do my job, and then people are waiting for me to put out the schedule or the roster or whatever, or the payroll. And then when it doesn't show up, they're like, hey, dude, what's going on? I'm like, well, your coworker decided to call off, which it may be a legit reason. Most of the time it seemed like it wasn't. Right. And I have to make up for that. So when someone calls out, this is what kind of gets me all the time, is when someone calls out or just sheerly does not do their job and leave it for the next person.
Yeah. It
makes everyone's life harder. And I don't understand why. I always try to, from every job I ever had, I always try to leave it organized and set for the next person if I can. And now there are situations where you got to drop what you're doing to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a special occasion, but
right.
I don't know. It seems to me if you just were to do your job, make it easier for the next person, it makes that person's life a little bit less stressful, and everyone goes home happy.
But unfortunately, the way a lot of things are ran now,
everyone thinks selfishly. They do.
Even if you're fully staffed, and we got to do final comments.
Yeah.
But even if you're fully staffed, things still seem, no matter where you're at, Like, you being fully staffed, it seems like you're kind of against the odds
Yeah.
in a weird way. And they say, well, it's called working and it's a job and that's what you're getting paid for. And they're not wrong. But I do feel like there's an aspect, especially if you are given time off and you work in a place where people already feel pushed just doing their normal job. I think it's on the company's fault mainly when people use their time off. And if everything falls apart, that means you have stretched everything so thin
that you leave yourself
that it has to kind of be looked at as abuse. If everything falls up, if the day becomes incapable of perfection because of one inconvenience, that means you have spread whatever you're doing
so thin. Yeah, and
just to milk everything, and it's no longer. You can say this is the standard or the quality this company believes in, and you can yell at everybody to do that.
It's a trickle down effect too, because
but if it falls apart, I always say trickle down.
When you do that, you also have people have the mentality now. Okay, I'm out for myself because it doesn't seem like they care as much about me because all this stuff fell apart. So I'm going to do what I need to do. And I'm going to get home and I'm going to get mine. And so when you create a mentality like that, it's really difficult to create a culture. And then that also goes out into the world and there's more selfishness. And so that's kind of where I think like the workplace is like a perfect microcosm for the whole macrocosm of we're all selfishly going towards one thing rather than collectively coming together to build one common thing.
Right.
And I think that's where everything falls apart, is everyone is so separate and so divided that if we were just to put together our differences and just realize that we want the same outcome, we can do if you put your ego aside, we can build
everything
the closest thing
to
closest thing to a utopia as possible. It will never happen because it's impossible, but it'll be very close if everyone were able to do that. But
it's like for a final comment, because I didn't need to throw my shoes on and head out, but one real world and one fictional thing, but it is kind of one of those things that's just like, if we could all get on that page, fuck this. If everybody could get on the same page, damn near every problem would be solved. Because a human is so intelligent and so capable. But we're also very the most complex. We're the most complicated human or complicated animal. But it's kind of like in the States,
we make
when there's war or like World War II,
that don't exist.
Or after 9/11 and stuff, there's all of a sudden, it takes a massive problem for there to be a moment of unity.
Yeah.
Which
is kind of sad.
It's very sad. And then it's the same as, like, Watchmen, the comic. The smartest man in the world
knew a disaster.
Blew fucking New York up. Because he was like, this is the only way humans will be on the same page, is if I make it seem like fucking aliens are going to get us at any point.
So when everyone has a common cause. To
stop the doomsday clock.
When everyone has a common cause, that's when we come together.
And then Dr. Manhattan, who is a god, omnipotent, he sees it and he's just like, fuck, he's right. And then Rorschach is like, I need to tell the world because the truth needs to be told. This is bullshit. People are going to die. And you have this omnipresent character who goes,
no,
I love you. I'm sorry. But he's fucking right. And that's when he blows him up. And then he also goes, y'all are complicated. And he goes to Mars. He leaves. He's like, you made the right choice, but it's also going to bear on your soul. And he talks about going to make his own life on Mars. So it's one of those things. It's like you talking about, like, not that you want it, but the stories we've talked about, people getting cancer, and that makes them go, I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna do good.
Just throw aside. Yeah, there's sometimes
It's just
I wish I
unfortunate
have the
you need a gun to your head. Yeah.
You wish you had. I wish I had the. You had that like in the stories. Yeah, of people having cancer. They have the mentality of everything else doesn't matter. What matters is this, and they put everything aside, even though that's could mean their livelihood, their pay, their money, or whatever. And they usually go towards the things that only make them happy, whatever it may be, playing music, being with their family, whatever. I don't want cancer. I never want cancer.
Right, yeah.
But sometimes when I read stories about that, I get a little jealous because there's no fear anymore. And they just do it. And yeah, like you're saying, sometimes we need something to happen for all of us to realize what are we doing anymore?
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be a disaster.
No, you don't want it to be a disaster. But I think also we need people. Shit, Tony Robbins has made all the money in the world off of it. And I like the things he says, but we also need people in the world who decide that they purely want to motivate.
Yeah.
And they tell stories like that. And they tell things. And I think that's why we tell stories.
And why we're here.
Yeah. So I got to go to work to go do exactly what we just complained about.
And I will stay here and work on more things.
Hell yeah.
But good episode, good talk.
Good episode, good talk. We got it in.
This is Artist Shirt and Fire. I'm Greg.
I'm Derrick.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Ripley is tired.
And support.
She's like asleep.
Yeah, no, she's just like, this will do. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Love
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you for everything.